My name is Clara Mitchell, 28 years old. The impact was less a sound than a collapse, the world folding in on itself, glass breaking into stars, the steering wheel a hard bloom against my chest. 1 second I was driving home, the radio low, thinking about whether to tell my family our news at the wedding next weekend. The next, I was upside down in a ditch, seatbelt digging into my shoulder, the car wrapped around an oak-like twisted metal origami. The airbag had blown. My head throbbed. Blood salted the back of my tongue. I blinked, testing the edges of consciousness, and found them intact, alive, aware, soberly terrified. Then I heard them. Is she breathing? My mother's voice, tremulous, floating closer through crushed leaves and broken glass. Yeah, but she's out cold. My brother Ethan, older by 2 years, always first to a verdict. Paramedics are 5 minutes out. Something in his tone, a thin wire of calculation, told me to keep my eyes closed. My breath went shallow, a rehearsed stillness I didn't know I owned. Jesus Christ, my father muttered. Not a prayer, an audit. This is all we need right now. All they needed. I was hanging upside down, blood in my hair, and I counted myself the inconvenience. Footsteps crunched around the car. A hand brushed the shattered window. At least she can't ruin the wedding now, my sister Brittany said, soft as a blade. The wedding. My cousin's. I was supposed to be maid of honor, and, I'd thought, in the glow of champagne and string lights, I would finally announce what I'd been guarding, my engagement to Derek. An announcement I wanted to be joy, not a battle. Don't be cruel, Mom whispered. But the rebuke landed like a feather. It didn't move anything. I'm just saying what we're all thinking, Brittany pressed on. She's been impossible lately. All that drama about Derek acting like she's too good for our family traditions. My heart shuddered against its harness. Derek and I had been together 3 years. We'd gotten engaged 2 months ago, but I'd held it like a candle cupped from wind. My family had always treated him like a temporary inconvenience, a lesson I would eventually learn. Not wealthy enough, not connected enough, not ours. The girl's always been selfish, Dad said. Everything has to be about her. Remember her high school graduation? Ethan chuckled, a sound that had been kindness in childhood and performance ever since. That fit she threw about art school cost us a fortune in therapy. There had been no fit, only a question I'd asked too earnestly. Could I choose photography instead of real estate? The therapy bill had come after the answer crushed something tender and true. She's just like your sister, Dad told Mom. Self-centered and ungrateful. My aunt, who had abandoned the family. The story never had details, only a warning label. At least if she's unconscious for a while, we won't have to deal with her attitude, Brittany murmured. Maybe Derek will finally see what we see. Sirens rose and fell, closer, like a tide. Remember, Dad said quickly, we tell everyone she was on her phone, distracted. We can't have this affecting insurance on the other cars. I hadn't been on my phone. I'd swerved to avoid a deer, but the narrative was already leaving the station. Should we call Derek? Mom asked. Let's wait, Ethan said. No point worrying him if she's fine. If I was fine. If I was an inconvenience. If I belonged to them less as a person than a variable to be managed. Red lights turned the ditch into a fever dream. Paramedics slid into view, their voices steady, practiced, professional. Hands on my neck, a brace, the careful math of extraction. As they lifted me, Dad was already speaking to a police officer, the words smooth, familiar. She's been under a lot of stress. Work trouble, relationship issues. We're worried about her mental state. Lies, cleanly ironed. I'd gotten a promotion 3 weeks ago. Derek and I were happy. The only stress that bit was the steady gnaw of being measured and found inconvenient. Loaded into the ambulance, I let my body go limp. The ceiling lights stuttered past, antiseptic and certain. Mom's voice crackled from somewhere just outside, low and efficient. Yes, there's been an accident. No, we don't know how serious yet. Can you postpone the cake tasting to next week? At the hospital, fluorescents replaced sirens. The smell of sterile hope. The click of rubber soles. Any family history we should know? A doctor asked. Depression, Dad said immediately. She's been struggling. This might have been intentional. Intentional. He was building me into a story that earned sympathy and control in one stroke. Any previous attempts? The doctor pressed. Nothing overt, Mom said carefully. But she's said troubling things, that she doesn't belong. I had said that, but not the way she framed it. I'd said I felt invisible, that I wanted them to see me beyond a ledger of expectations. I had offered a wound. They'd dressed it with a label I didn't own. We'll have psychiatry evaluate her when she wakes, the doctor said. I kept my breathing even. The cuff on my arm squeezed, released, machines hummed, and then the room filled with blood relatives who felt like strangers. Grandma, my uncle, cousins whose smiles had always been 2 degrees colder with me. She's always been difficult, Grandma sighed. Never satisfied. Remember Cousin Marie's wedding? She refused to be in it. I had been 12. The dress had been the exact pink of embarrassment. I had cried in the bathroom while other girls laughed. Refusal hadn't been rebellion. It had been wishful thinking. And that boyfriend, Grandma continued. Derek seems nice, but he's not our kind of people. She could do better. He was a teacher. He was a good man. Maybe this is a wake-up call, my aunt suggested, a chance to reevaluate her priorities. Maybe it's a sign, Brittany said, voice dipped in piety. Maybe she's not meant to be part of our family's future. The beeping of the monitor set a tempo to my fury. Footsteps hurried in the hall, a voice I knew like the inside of my own palm. I'm her fiancé, Derek told a nurse, breathless. I came as soon as I could. How is she? Room 314, she answered. Family's with her. He entered with a careful urgency, his presence pulling air back into my lungs. Mrs. Mitchell, he said to my mother, polite despite everything. How is she? Unconscious but stable, Dad replied. We don't know much. What happened? Derek asked, voice steady, eyes scanning me like a promise. Probably texting while driving, Ethan cut in. You know how she is. He did know how I was. The phone buried in a bag, a rule I honored like a religion. That doesn't sound like her, Derek said quietly. You'd be surprised what you don't know, Brittany offered, syrup over venom. She's been secretive. She seemed fine this morning, he said. We had breakfast. She was excited about next weekend. Given the circumstances, Dad interjected, casual like small talk at a funeral, maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding. It might be awkward. Silence expanded, then hardened. Are you uninviting me? Derek asked. The calm in his voice was the kind that comes right before a storm. We're thinking of what's best for everyone, Mom said. It's a family event, and with everything... My fiancé is in a hospital bed, Derek said, still gentle, now made of steel. And you're worried about etiquette. The word hit like a defibrillator. Fiancé, said out loud. Fiancé? Grandma repeated, like a foreign dish she didn't order. She accepted my proposal 2 months ago, Derek said, firm. We were planning to tell you at the wedding. She never mentioned an engagement, Mom murmured, the tremor in her voice a tiny truth. She understood her part in why. Because she was afraid of this exact reaction, Derek replied. Because for 3 years, I've watched you confuse control for care. Now see here, Dad started, voice rising. No, see here, Derek said, and I heard the floor of my life tilt back toward level. She got promoted to senior photographer. You asked why she wasn't running the gallery. She volunteers at the shelter. You called it a waste. She sends Grandma flowers every month. You critique the arrangement. You don't want what's best for her. You want what looks best for you. She's our daughter, Mom said, defensive and brittle. We want what's best. You want what you can manage, he said. She told me last week she feels like she's living for an audience that never applauds. My chest ached. The exact line returned to me as proof I had not imagined the bruise. She's been distant, Ethan said, skipping dinners. Because every dinner is a tribunal, Derek said. Last month you spent an hour lamenting she bought a Honda instead of a BMW. She was proud. She saved for 2 years to buy it herself. We've given her every advantage, Dad said. Private schools, tuition, connections. If she chooses to waste... She's published in 3 national magazines this year, Derek said, disbelief breaking through. She owns her gallery. That's not waste. That's success you refuse to see. Photography is a hobby, Grandma sniffed. Not a career. It's what makes her happy, Derek said. And maybe that's why you don't recognize it. We know our daughter better than you, Mom insisted, but her conviction had begun to fray. Do you? He asked, soft as mercy, sharp as truth. Do you know she cries after every family gathering? Do you know she has panic attacks because she's terrified of disappointing you? Do you know she almost turned down my proposal because she believed she didn't deserve to be happy? The monitor kept time for my heart. No one spoke. A nurse stepped in, professional as a closing curtain. Visiting hours are ending. Only one family member can stay. I'll stay, Derek said. You're not family, Dad said quickly. I am more family to her than anyone in this room, Derek replied. I know her favorite song, her biggest fear, the shape of her dreams. I celebrate her instead of sanding her down. Dr. Martinez entered, chart in hand. Good news, no serious brain injury, concussion, bruising, but she should wake within hours. Thank God, Derek breathed. Given the family history of depression, the doctor added, glancing at the page, we'll keep her for observation and have psychiatry evaluate. Family history of what? Derek asked, voice a thin tremor away from breaking. The doctor looked at my parents. You mentioned she's been struggling and that this might have been intentional. Absolutely not, Derek said, and the calm left him. She called me 20 minutes before the accident. She was singing to the radio, excited about dinner. She doesn't have a history of depression. There may have been miscommunication, Mom said quickly. No, Derek said. There was a lie. Dr. Martinez held up a hand. We'll speak with the patient when she wakes. She can tell us. The room chilled. Choice curled up beside me like a cat. I could open my eyes now and end the theater, or I could wait and learn the rest of the script they were writing for my life. After Derek left to call my best friend Melanie, the room thinned to whispers again. Dad, low. This is a disaster. If word gets out about the engagement. We can't let her marry him, Grandma said. Catastrophe. Maybe the accident is a blessing, Brittany murmured. If we play it right, we can show her he abandoned her when she needed him. That's manipulation, Ethan said. And for once his voice had the shame to match his words. But he didn't leave. It's intervention, Brittany corrected. We're saving her. What if we offered him money? Grandma suggested. Pay him to walk away. Time it while she's vulnerable, Dad mused. Make it look like his idea. The beeping told on my heart again. They were planning to break me like a habit. In the hallway, I heard Melanie's heels, quick and certain. Oh my God, she breathed at the door. Is she okay? She's stable, Mom said coolly. What happened? She was distracted, Dad said smoothly. You know how she is with that phone. That's impossible, Melanie answered, not even pausing. She won't touch her phone when she's driving. She lectures strangers about it. People can change, Brittany started. When's the last time you had a real conversation with her? Melanie asked. Asked about her work, her dreams. Silence spread, embarrassed at itself. She was going to propose to him, Melanie said into the quiet. This weekend, at the wedding. With something that belonged to his grandfather that she spent months finding. That can't happen, Rachel snapped from the doorway, her voice bright with the particular panic of brides. It's my wedding. She was going to ask your permission, Melanie said. She wanted love to multiply in a room built for it. Absolutely not, Dad said. I won't allow it. She's 28, Melanie replied, her voice honed to a point. She doesn't need a permit to be loved. I lay there, eyes closed, breathing softly, feeling something inside me align. If waking up was a choice, so was staying still. And I needed one more truth before I rose. Here's what's going to happen, Derek's voice said when he returned, cups of coffee clacking softly in his hands. When she wakes up, I'm going to ask her to marry me properly, loudly, because she deserves a family that celebrates her. The monitor ticked faster. Somewhere, a fuse blew, quietly, cleanly. I was not the person they thought I was. I was the person who would decide what came next. I stayed still and listened to the rest. The hospital room breathed in hums and machines, a quiet too steady to be trusted. The antiseptic smell clung to my lungs. I kept my eyes closed, my body slack, the perfect portrait of a woman too broken to respond. Inside, my pulse throbbed with every word that came out of their mouths. Dad's voice was the first to slice the silence. We have to control this, Janet. My mother exhaled, exhausted, whispering something about the insurance, the wedding, the timing. Timing. As if trauma followed an agenda. People are already talking, Grandma muttered. The accident happened just days before Rachel's big day. We can't have rumors spreading. I wanted to laugh, but laughter would have given me away. I was a headline waiting to be managed, not a daughter they almost lost. Let's tell people she was texting, Dad decided, his voice sharp. If the story's simple, no one asks questions. I'm not comfortable lying, Mom murmured, but her protest carried no conviction. You said she'd been distracted lately, Brittany reminded her. It's not really a lie if it feels true. There was a rustle of clothing, the sound of shifting alliances. My cousin Rachel entered, perfume before voice. How is she? Stable, Mom said, but this is going to cast a shadow over the wedding. Rachel sighed dramatically, as though her empathy had a quota. I just hope she doesn't wake up before the weekend. The photos would be awkward. She won't ruin it, Brittany promised. We'll keep her comfortable. A monitor beeped faster. I slowed my breathing until it matched the rhythm of false concern. She's been impossible lately anyway, Rachel added, complaining about dresses, shoes, hair. It's like she wants to make everything about her. The air thickened. I remembered the moment Rachel had chosen my bridesmaid dress, the color of champagne I'd said washed me out. She'd smiled sweetly and told me that was the point, that I photographed too well. I heard footsteps, softer this time, the sound of someone who didn't belong in this cold theater of etiquette. "Oh my God," a new voice gasped. "Is she okay?" Melanie. Her tone cut through the artificial politeness, like light through frost. "She's stable," Mom said, cool as a front desk receptionist. "What happened?" Melanie asked, breath tight. Dad's reply came without pause. "She was distracted driving. You know how she is with her phone." "That's impossible." Melanie's disbelief was immediate, fierce. "She's obsessive about road safety. She lectures strangers. I've seen her pull over to answer calls." "People change," Brittany said. "No," Melanie said. "You just stopped paying attention." A pause. Then she went in for the kill. "When's the last time any of you asked how she's been, or cared about what she actually wants?" The silence in the room was a verdict. "She's been under a lot of stress," Grandma offered. "Work, this engagement nonsense." "Nonsense?" Melanie cut her off. "You mean the man who loves her? The one who celebrates her instead of shrinking her?" Mom's tone wavered. "Derek's fine, but he doesn't fit." "Fit into what?" Melanie snapped. "Your idea of success? Your social calendar?" No one answered. The air hummed with the beeping of truth. "You know what she told me last week?" Melanie asked. "That she's done begging for approval. That she's tired of earning love she should have had for free." I felt a lump form in my throat. Melanie was saying everything I'd been too afraid to say out loud. Dad sighed. "We've always supported her." "You've supported the version of her that looks good in your Christmas cards," Melanie shot back. "Not the real Clara. The artist. The woman who makes a living doing what she loves. Who helps people you call beneath her." "Those people," Grandma started, but Melanie didn't let her finish. "Those people are the ones she tutors at the community center every Thursday. The kids who adore her. The families whose stories she photographs for free because it gives them dignity. You wouldn't know that, because you've never cared to ask." I heard the rustle of Rachel's dress. "Well, that's nice and all, but she shouldn't propose at my wedding." The room went still. "Propose?" Dad repeated. Melanie hesitated, then sighed. She was planning to surprise Derek at the reception. She found his grandfather's watch, the one his grandmother sold during hard times. She wanted to give it back to him when she asked him to marry her. "The gas from Mom was theatrical. She can't do that. It's inappropriate." She was going to ask Rachel's permission first, Melanie said, her voice softer. She thought it would be romantic. Love begetting love. "Absolutely not," Dad snapped. "I won't allow it." Melanie's tone sharpened into steel. "She's 28, not 8. She doesn't need your permission to be happy." "If she wants to stay part of this family, she does," Grandma said. The sentence landed like a verdict. My fingers twitched under the blanket. Even pretending to be unconscious couldn't shield me from the sting. "Are you threatening to disown her for choosing who to love?" Melanie asked. "We're protecting her," Mom said, voice trembling now. "The way you protected your sister?" Melanie asked. A sudden silence swallowed the room. "What do you know about Patricia?" Mom's voice cracked. "I know she didn't abandon you," Melanie said quietly. "You cut her off for marrying someone you didn't approve of. She tried to reach out for years. You returned every letter unopened. She died 3 years ago, alone." The world seemed to tilt. Even with my eyes shut, I could feel the weight of their guilt hit the air like thunder. "How do you know that?" Mom whispered. "Because she reached out to Clara," Melanie said. "They'd been writing for months before she passed. Patricia wanted to meet her niece before it was too late, but Clara was too scared of your reaction to make it happen." I bit the inside of my cheek, fighting tears. I'd told Melanie that in confidence. I'd confessed that guilt, the letter unopened on my desk when the call came that Patricia was gone. "She never told us," Mom said. "Because she knew you'd make her choose," Melanie replied. "The same way you're making her choose now." Dad spoke finally, his voice rough. "We love her." "No," Melanie said. "You love the version that makes you look successful. You love the fantasy daughter who lives for your approval, not the real woman lying here, the one you've spent her whole life trying to fix." No one argued. They couldn't. Then Derek's voice entered again, calm but charged. "Any change?" "Still unconscious," Mom said quickly. He set something down. "I brought coffee for everyone." I heard the paper cups shift, the faint hiss of plastic lids. Even now, after hearing how they'd spoken about him, he was offering kindness. Thank you, Melanie said softly. It's the least I can do, he replied. We're all worried. Dad cleared his throat. Derek, we should talk. Of course. This accident made us realize how fragile life is, Mom began, and how important it is to make the right choices. I agree, Derek said, careful but firm. We're concerned about the engagement, Dad said flatly, whether it's really right for her. There it was, the manipulation wrapped in civility. What do you mean? Derek asked, though I could hear the tension in his jaw. She's young, Grandma said. Sometimes emotions cloud judgment. Are you asking me to leave her? Dad's pause was short. We're asking you to think about what's best for her future, financially, socially. Derek laughed once, bitter and tired. You mean you're asking me how much I make? Mom's voice softened falsely. We just want her to have stability. Private schools, travel, comfort. Can you provide that? I can provide love, respect, and a home that doesn't run on fear, Derek said. I thought that mattered. Love doesn't pay hospital bills, Dad said. Neither does pride, Derek shot back. She built her life herself, without your money, without your connections. That's success. You just can't recognize it because you didn't design it. You're idealistic, Grandma said. Not realistic. And you're confusing control with care, Derek replied. Melanie spoke then, voice steady as a verdict. She wants to raise children who never have to earn love, who grow up knowing they are enough. That's what she told me. Mom's voice broke. She said that? Yes, Melanie whispered, because she's lived the opposite. No one spoke for a long time. The only sound was the heart monitor. Slow, steady, undeniable. Derek cleared his throat. When she wakes up, I'm going to propose again. Properly, loudly, because she deserves a family that celebrates her instead of trying to rewrite her life. You're turning her against us, Mom said weakly. You did that yourselves, Melanie replied. You just can't stand to see someone love her right. I felt the faintest smile tug at my mouth. I'd heard enough venom, enough pretense. Now I'd heard something worth believing in. The room was silent except for machines breathing for me. Then, somewhere deep inside, a decision clicked like a shutter. It was time to wake up. The first thing I did when I opened my eyes was pretend I hadn't. I let my lashes flutter just enough to catch light, then fell still again. The room was half dark now, lit by a single lamp that hummed over the quiet. My mother's perfume still lingered, faint and expensive, a scent I'd spent my whole life associating with control. I could hear her whispering near the doorway. She can't marry him, Martin, not after this. Dad's voice, tired but iron-edged. We'll handle it. The engagement's not official yet. There's still time to fix things. Fix things. Always that phrase. As if love were a broken hinge. What if she wakes up angry? Mom whispered. What if she knows what we've said? She was unconscious, Dad said. Even if she remembers bits, we'll say it was the concussion. I lay perfectly still, heartbeat steady, and memorized every word. A phone buzzed, paper rustled, the sound of plans being drawn. Offer him something, Grandma's voice cut in. She must have joined them quietly. Money. Help with his student loans. Something he can't refuse. Mom hesitated. You think he'd take it? They always do, Grandma replied. He's a teacher, isn't he? Modest means, give him an easy out. Make it look like his idea. The cruelty was surgical, cold, practiced. My mind replayed their conversation like a file downloading in real time. Offer money. Frame Derek as weak. Pretend concern. Rewrite the narrative. They weren't planning a reconciliation. They were crafting a campaign. Then Ethan spoke, voice low. Maybe you're overreacting. She loves him. Grandma scoffed. She thinks she loves him, but love doesn't last when the bank account runs dry. Ethan's reply was soft, uncertain. You sound like a villain in a movie. Reality doesn't need villains, Grandma said sharply. Just people who understand leverage. The door clicked shut. I heard heels moving away down the corridor. Only Ethan stayed behind, shuffling closer to the bed. Clara, he murmured, thinking I couldn't hear. I hope you can't. I don't know how to fix this family, but I hope you can. Then he left too. When the door closed, I opened my eyes fully. The ceiling tiles looked endless, a grid of sterile control. I exhaled slowly, willing my body not to tremble. Every muscle screamed to get up, to shout, to burn the room down with truth. But timing mattered. If I'd learned anything tonight, it was that power only counted if you used it when they least expected. Minutes later, footsteps returned. Derek's, steady and familiar. He set a paper bag on the table, the smell of coffee and takeout warming the air. She's still asleep? He asked softly. Yes, Melanie answered, or pretending to be, hard to tell with her. Pretending? Melanie sighed. It's what I'd do. You learn more when people think you're not listening. A beat of silence. Then Derek's voice dropped, threaded with exhaustion. I can't believe what they said. I can, Melanie said. They've spent years confusing love with ownership. They offered me money. The words hit the air like a gunshot. Melanie froze. What? Your father, Derek continued. He cornered me outside. Said he respected me, but didn't think I could meet her needs long term. Offered to pay off my car loan if I ended things quietly. I closed my eyes again, just to contain the fury. What did you say? Melanie asked. I told him to keep his money, Derek said, and his opinion. I love Clara. I'm not leaving her because her family can't see her worth. You know they'll twist that against you, Melanie warned. They'll make you look opportunistic. You're exactly the kind of man they don't know how to understand. I don't care, Derek said simply. She's the only thing that makes sense in my life. I'm not walking away. He sounded tired, but steady. A man building a bridge out of wreckage. The door opened again, voices flooding back. Dad's tone was falsely polite. Derek, we need another word. Melanie muttered, You never stop, do you? Dad ignored her. I'm sorry about earlier. Emotions are high. We only want what's best for Clara. What's best for Clara? Derek repeated slowly. Or what's most convenient for you? Mom spoke next, softer but just as sharp. You need to understand she's fragile right now, vulnerable. This isn't the time to make big decisions. The time for big decisions, Derek said, was years ago, when you could have chosen to support her instead of dismantling everything she loved. That's not fair, Dad protested. What isn't fair, Derek said, stepping forward, is pretending to love someone while planning to buy off the person who does. What isn't fair is lying to doctors about her mental health to keep your reputation spotless. What isn't fair is a daughter who's nearly killed in an accident, and you treat it like a PR problem. Mom's breath caught. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about, Derek said. And when she wakes up, you're going to hear it from her too. She'll believe us, Grandma said suddenly. She'd come back, her perfume arriving first. We raised her. She's loyal. Derek's voice broke on a bitter laugh. You keep mistaking fear for loyalty. That silence, the one that comes after a truth no one can argue, settled like dust over the room. You're turning her against us, Mom said weakly. Derek shook his head. You did that yourselves. I'm just done pretending it's love. He turned toward the door. I'll be back in the morning, he said. And when she wakes up, I'm asking her again, in front of all of you. The door shut behind him. The click echoed like a promise. For a long while, no one spoke. Then Grandma sighed, low and bitter. He'll never last. She'll see sense eventually. Melanie's voice was calm but lethal. She already has. I wanted to stand up and thank her, to tell them all that the woman they'd dismissed as broken was listening, awake, and finally done being polite. But I stayed silent, every second feeding my resolve. Outside, the hall clock ticked past midnight. My head throbbed, but clarity cut through the pain like light through fog. They had offered money. They had called me fragile. They had lied about my mind, my love, my life. Enough. The next time I opened my eyes, I wouldn't close them again. The world sharpened into focus like a lens snapping into place. Morning light filtered through the blinds, striping the floor in pale gold. The room smelled faintly of coffee and antiseptic. I could hear Melanie humming softly near the window, and Derek's breathing, slow and steady, from the chair beside my bed. I turned my head slightly. He was asleep, chin tilted toward his chest, one hand still holding mine like he'd guarded me all night. For a moment, I just watched him, my chest aching with quiet gratitude. Then I saw the shadows of my family standing just beyond the glass partition, whispering again. Enough pretending. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes fully. Derek, I whispered. His head shot up instantly. His eyes widened, disbelieving for a moment, before relief broke over his face. Clara, you're awake? Melanie was at my side in seconds. Hey, easy, she said softly, smiling through tired eyes. How do you feel? Like I've been asleep for years, I murmured. The door swung open. My mother gasped. She's awake? Within seconds, the room filled. My parents, Grandma, Brittany, Ethan. They looked at me the way people look at an approaching storm, fascinated and terrified. Mom rushed forward, tears already forming. Sweetheart, thank God. You gave us such a scare. I stared at her, remembering every word she'd said when she thought I couldn't hear. I bet I did, I said calmly. Dr. Martinez entered, clipboard in hand. Good morning, Ms. Mitchell. How's your head? Clear, I replied. Very clear. Any dizziness or confusion? I smiled faintly. Not anymore. He nodded. That's good. You had a mild concussion, but scans look fine. I'll just need to speak with you briefly about the accident. Dad stepped in. Doctor, perhaps later. She needs rest. Dr. Martinez hesitated. Just a few questions. Miss Mitchell, do you remember what happened before the crash? I remember everything, I said. Mom's hand froze midair. I swerved to avoid a deer, I continued. I wasn't distracted. I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't upset or suicidal. I was just driving home. The room went silent. The doctor blinked. I see. Your family mentioned you'd been under emotional stress. Lies, I interrupted, calmly. My family lied to you. Dr. Martinez looked from me to them. Is that true? No one answered. Doctor, Derek said, stepping forward. I can confirm she called me 20 minutes before the accident. She was cheerful, singing to the radio. I can also provide phone records. That won't be necessary, the doctor said quickly, already scribbling notes. We'll cancel the psychiatric evaluation. I looked directly at my parents. You told the hospital I might have tried to hurt myself. Why? Dad's mouth opened, then closed again. We were worried. No, I said evenly. You were worried about your image. You didn't care whether I lived or died, as long as the story stayed tidy. Clara, you're upset, Mom said softly. I'm awake, I corrected. And for the first time, I'm not letting you spin my life into something convenient for you. Brittany crossed her arms. You don't know what you're saying. You have a concussion. I also have a memory, I said sharply, and I remember every word you all said last night. Grandma's face went pale. You were unconscious. No, I said. I was listening. I heard everything. I heard you say my accident was a blessing. I heard you plan to pay Derek to leave me. I heard you call my love life a mistake, my happiness a liability, my existence an inconvenience. Mom took a trembling breath. We were scared. You were calculating, I said coldly. And I'm done letting you manage me. Derek squeezed my hand. You don't have to do this now, he whispered. Yes, I do. I turned back to my family. All my life, I've bent myself into whatever shape would make you proud. The obedient daughter. The polished image. The one who never argues too loud or laughs too big. But I'm done living like that. You've controlled my choices for 28 years. My career, my clothes, my relationships. Not anymore. Don't speak to your mother that way, Dad said sharply. I met his eyes. Then start acting like one. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Clara, let's all just take a breath. Did you even hesitate? I asked him. When they decided to bribe Derek? When they lied to the doctor? Did you say anything? He looked away. I wanted to, he whispered. But you didn't, I said, because keeping the peace is easier than telling the truth. Mom's tears spilled now. We only wanted to protect you. Protect me from what? I asked. From love? From freedom? From being happy in a way that doesn't make sense to you? No one answered. I heard you, Mom, I said. You said Derek isn't good enough for me. That his salary, his background, his life doesn't measure up. But he's the only one who's ever treated me like I was enough. Do you know what that's worth? Mom covered her mouth. Her shoulders shook, but she didn't speak. I looked at Grandma. You called my accident a blessing. You said I wasn't meant to be part of this family's future. Maybe you were right, because I'm done trying to belong somewhere that only loves me when I'm silent. Grandma's expression hardened. You're being dramatic. No, I said, I'm being honest. The words hung there like a verdict. Derek's voice broke the silence. She's telling the truth. Every word of it. Dad's glare swung toward him. You've filled her head with ideas. I've reminded her that she's allowed to have her own, Derek said quietly. Melanie stepped forward, folding her arms. You all built her cage and called it safety. Don't look surprised now that she's found the key. Dr. Martinez cleared his throat, awkward. I'll give you a few minutes alone, he said, retreating quickly from the crossfire. When the door closed, I spoke again, softly this time. I was going to propose to Derek at Rachel's wedding. Rachel's jaw dropped. You what? I spent 6 months finding his grandfather's watch, the one his grandmother had to sell. I was going to give it to him at your reception, surrounded by family, because I thought love was something worth sharing. Tears welled in Derek's eyes. You found the watch? I nodded. It's at my apartment, in the box with a letter I wrote you. I was going to ask you to marry me, Derek, because you make me feel like I'm enough exactly as I am. He squeezed my hand tighter. You still can, he whispered. I smiled faintly, then turned back to the others. But I won't do it in front of people who tried to destroy us. Mom covered her face. Please, Clara. You want to fix this? I asked. Then stop trying to control me. Stop deciding what's best for me. Stop confusing pride for love. Dad's voice rose. You're overreacting. I nearly died, I said evenly. And even that wasn't enough for you to see me as a person instead of a problem. If this is overreacting, then maybe I should have screamed years ago. Mom's tears fell freely now. We can change, she whispered. Then prove it, I said. Accept Derek. Stop rewriting my story. Stop lying about me to protect your reputation. If you can't do that, then you'll lose me. Not because he's taking me away, but because I'm finally strong enough to walk away on my own. The room stayed silent. Even the machines seemed to pause, as if the air itself was waiting for their answer. I want you to be happy, Mom said finally, her voice cracking. I just don't know how to stop being afraid of losing you. Then start by realizing you already have, I said quietly. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Ethan whispered, What do you want from us? Honesty, I said. Respect. And if that's too much, then distance. I reached for Derek's hand again and met his eyes. Take me home. He nodded. Behind us, my mother sobbed softly. Please don't go like this. I paused at the doorway, weak but upright. Mom, I said, this isn't me leaving. It's me finally waking up. And for the first time in my life, I walked out of a room without waiting for anyone's permission. The next morning, the hospital felt like an old memory already. Cold walls, pale light, the scent of antiseptic clinging to my hair. Derek helped me into my jacket, his hands careful at my shoulders, and I caught the way he looked at me, not with pity, but with quiet pride. You sure you're ready to go? He asked softly. I've never been more ready for anything, I said. We left before my family arrived. The nurse gave me a half smile as I signed the discharge forms, the kind of smile that meant she'd seen enough families like mine to know the real healing wouldn't come from medicine. Outside, the sun was blinding. The air smelled clean, new. Derek opened the car door for me and kissed my forehead before circling to the driver's side. As we pulled out of the parking lot, I looked back at the hospital and thought about all the words I'd heard within those walls. Lies, excuses, and finally, a truth too long delayed. We drove in silence for a while until I said quietly, I don't hate them. Derek glanced over. I know. I just can't go back to pretending. He nodded. You don't have to. We reached my apartment just after noon. Sunlight pooled across the hardwood floor. My framed photographs still lined the wall. Children at the community center, shelter animals, faces full of unfiltered life. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed my own space, how much peace lived here. Derek set my bag down. You need rest. I need clarity, I corrected, but smiled when he rolled his eyes. He poured me a glass of water and sat across from me. What happens now? I give them a choice, I said. Acceptance or absence, love or control, nothing in between. Before he could reply, my phone buzzed on the table, a text from Dad. Your mother talked to us. We want to do better. Can we start over? I stared at the screen for a long moment. Derek waited. What do you think? He asked finally. I think words are easy, I said. Actions will tell the truth. He nodded slowly. Then give them a chance to show you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch, surrounded by quiet, flipping through the letters Mom had given me, the ones my Aunt Patricia had written all those years ago. Each one began the same way. Dear Clara, I hope you never learn to be afraid of love the way your family taught us to be. Her handwriting was looping and confident. She wrote about art, about freedom, about marrying a man who made her laugh more than he made her think about money. She wrote about the silence that followed when she chose happiness over approval. And she wrote about me, about how she saw a spark in my photographs, the same courage she once had but lost to fear. By the time I reached the last letter, the page was blurred with tears. Patricia had died without forgiveness, but her words had survived, proof that choosing love, no matter the cost, was the right kind of rebellion. I whispered into the quiet, I won't let it happen again. 3 months later, Derek and I were married. We chose the botanical gardens for the ceremony, sunlight filtering through branches, petals drifting like confetti in the breeze. It was small, simple, beautiful. Melanie stood beside me as my maid of honor, smiling like she'd known from the beginning this was how the story should end. My parents came, not out of obligation this time, but out of humility. I saw it in the way Mom held her breath when Derek's students gave a toast, in the way Dad shook his hand afterward and actually meant it. Grandma didn't attend, but she sent a card. I hope you're happy. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. Ethan and Brittany hovered at the edges of forgiveness. They still didn't fully understand, but they were trying. And for the first time, trying was enough. As Derek slipped the ring onto my finger, I felt something shift. Not the fairy tale ending my family had once scripted for me, but something real, something earned. After the ceremony, we walked through the gardens as the guests lingered behind. The sun was setting, light pooling golden across the water. Derek brushed his thumb over my ring. "So," he said softly, "still glad you woke up?" I laughed. Through a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Waking up was the easy part," I said. "Learning how to stay awake. That's the work." He smiled. "Then we'll do the work together." Later, when the music faded and the guests were gone, I found myself alone under the trees. I thought about Patricia, about the life she never got to finish, and whispered, "I'm free now." The night air was gentle, and for once silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. As I watched the lanterns floating across the pond, I realized the accident hadn't broken me. It had stripped away everything false. The crash had given me something my family never could, the truth. Sometimes the loudest wake-up call is the one that nearly ends you. And sometimes surviving it is how you finally begin.